What do you think makes a great explorer? Whether it's Percy Fawcett, Richard Evans Schultes. By the way, say who Richard Evans Schultes is. He's a biologist, so that's another lens through which to be an explorer,
Yeah.
is to study the biology, the immense diversity of biological life all around us.
Richard Evans Schultes, I know about him from reading Wade Davis's book, One River, which is this big, hefty, 500 or 600 page tome about the Amazon. And it covers two stories. It's Richard Evans Schultes, and I think it's in the 40s. I think it's like pre-World War II era, where he's in the Amazon looking for the blue orchid and the cure for this and that. And he's pressing plants, and he's going to these indigenous communities where they still live completely with the forest, and they drink ayahuasca, and they talk to the gods, and he learns about how they believe that the anaconda came down from the Milky Way and swam across the land and created the rivers. And sort of he came down, and even though he was a Western scientist from Harvard, he embraced the indigenous perspective on the world, on creation, on spirituality, and he sort of resigned himself and gave himself fully to that, and spent years and years traveling around parts of the Amazon that had hardly been explored, and certainly never been explored in the way he was doing it, in the ethnobotanical, spiritual way of what medicinal compounds are contained in these plants, and how do the local indigenous people use and understand them. For example, of 80,000 species of plants in the Amazon rainforest and 400 billion trees in the Amazon rainforest, the statistics of likelihood that through trial and error that humans could discover ayahuasca, it's astronomical. That one of these trees and a root, when put together, allow you to go access the spirit realm and see hallucinogenic shapes and talk to the gods. That's almost enough to inspire spiritual thought itself. The fact that trial and error, it would take like millions of years or something. It's I forget what the figure is. It's incredible. But Richard Evans Schultes was one of the first people that came down and saw that. And then One River is where Wade Davis comes back, I believe, in the 70s. And the heartbreak of the book is that all of these incredibly wild places with naked native tribes and these intact belief systems, Wade Davis comes back, and a lot of the same places that Schultes went. Now there's missionary schools, and they're wearing discarded Nikes and, whatever. I don't know if there's Nikes in the 70s, but like Western stuff has made it in. They've been contacted, domesticated, forced into Western society. And, a lot of them then forget the thousands and thousands of years that have gone into creating the medicinal, botanical knowledge that the indigenous possess about how to cure ear infections and how to treat illnesses from the medicinal compounds flowing through these trees, is lost in a single generation with the modernization.
Yeah, he wrote the plants of the gods, their sacred healing and hallucinogenic powers. That is interesting. You mentioned like how to discover that. Like, how do you find those incredible plants, those incredible things that can warp your mind in all kinds of ways? Of course, physically heal, but also like take you on a mental journey. That's interesting. So you don't think trial and error is possible?
I was reading about ayahuasca, and they were saying statistically, if you put 1,000 humans in the Amazon and gave them villages to live in, because humans are communal species, it would take tens and tens of thousands of years, or perhaps even centuries, before even the possibility. It's like that thing, a bunch of chips on a keyboard. How could they write Hamlet? It's like astronomical odds to get to, oh wait, this and this dosed together. And so what the local people believe is that the gods revealed this secret through the jungle to us as a link to the spirit world. And that's how we know this. Because if they didn't remember it from their ancestors, we would have no idea how to get this information from the wild.
So I will likely do ayahuasca. What do you think exists in the spirit world that could be found by taking that journey?
I think that ayahuasca is, I can only speak from personal experience, And for me, it was as if your brain is a house you've lived in your entire life, and it's a big house, it's a mansion, and there's many, many rooms that you didn't even know exist, hidden rooms behind the bookshelves, under the floorboards, rooms that you had no idea were there. And some of them are fantastic, and some of them are terrifying basements. And ayahuasca takes you on a journey through that. At its most effective, you sit in front of the shaman with the candlelight, with the sounds of the jungle, and you drink this substance. And after that, what happens is the journey is all inside. And the shaman's supposed to be able to guide you through that. But in my experience, you're so deep inside, like falling through nebulas out in space, no physical form, or crawling through the jungle. It's really, really powerful. Like it's not like the recreational drugs that everyone does, like where you go, oh, I did mushrooms and I could see music. Like, and I was talking to my friends, but no, like you're face down on the floor, usually vomiting, sometimes shitting, having dialogues with the creator. And that can be traumatizing as well as amazing.
It's a really good way of looking at it. It's a big house, and you get to open doors that you've never have before and discover what rooms are there inside you. You ever think about that? Like that there's parts of yourself you haven't discovered yet? Or maybe you've been suppressing? How much are you exploring the shadow?
Oh boy.
So say you, me, Carl Jung, and Jordan Peterson are in a deserted island together.
Fuck, I didn't even make my bed today.
There's no bed on an island.
Great.
It's a campsite.
I want to see you and Jordan Peterson do ayahuasca together. I think that's the thing. Ayahuasca to me, I've kind of told you about, like I've experienced some things that really made me believe that there's a benevolent force around us. But to me, ayahuasca was a ride through the scariest parts of the universe, to sort of be like, here's what it could be like. That's where I came up with my idea that, like deep space, or just space, outer space, is just the outside of the video game, and this is it. Because when I was on ayahuasca, I was one of the jungle creatures, and I wasn't Paul, and I didn't have a name. And for a long time, I saw many things, and I arrived at this spot in the jungle where there was a big tree and all the animals were there, and they were all not in words, not in any language that we can understand, but they were all discussing what to do about the threat, and it was all leaving, it was all flying up, and it was fire, and the jungle was being destroyed, and it was like I went, and then after that it was just space and stars and silence, like crushing vacuum silence for years, and that was terrifying. That was fucking terrifying. When I came back and I had hands, man, I could remember my own name.